All right, good evening. Welcome to an AGG live or a daily vlog live. I think I'm live. The trouble is, as I've said before, with my app, I never know exactly when I go live. So let's hope I am live now. And if I am, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me. We've got people in the comments room, which I've got here in front of me. We've got Cat Stan saying, still can't beat Ping I2s. Kat is referencing today's question, which I put out to Twitter and other social platforms, and we're going to talk about tech in golf clubs. We've actually got 3 questions to try and get through this evening. So the first one comes from Stuart Gordon, which I don't know if you can see if I can get that. Stuart's there. Thank you for your question, Stuart. He is asking, has there been any true advancements in club technology in the last 10 years? Which we're going to talk a little bit about. I've got some responses, and obviously I'll try and pick up your responses in the chat room. Happy birthday, Mrs. Parfield. Yes, indeed, it's Mrs. Parfield's birthday today. So thank you for the wishes for happy birthday. Other questions we've got as well, which we'll touch on, but less. Phil is asking about the rowdy, Phil was saying, can we talk about the rowdy crowds, and that Rory McIlroy was suggesting that maybe we should limit the amount of beer that's sold at golf tournaments, so you could place some comments on that as well. And then we've got one from Tom Parker, which we'll do right at the end. So let's start with technology, shall we? Quite an interesting idea with technology. I think it depends on how you look at it. Let's see if anyone's got any. Hello there from VA USA. Hello, Dustin. Is the body aching yet, brah? From Adam. Yes, it does a little bit, but I've done my exercises today. He's talking about my TPI exercises. RLS Junior Advances, hashtag twist my face, lol. Which is quite a good point. Look, let's start with what I think was one of the big developments rather than advancements in golf in the last 10 years. And I think it's safe in saying that it kind of started with this club here. I can get it in shot there. So this is an SLDR slider, marketed. It's quite an interesting story with this one, because obviously it was marketed with the fact that you got this sliding weight at the front, but they obviously realized pretty quick that that wasn't the biggest selling tool. The biggest selling tool was the fact that the spin on this club is ridiculously low. Now, before TaylorMade brought out SLDR, it's quite interesting to think that there probably wasn't that many low spin models on the market. What they did is they advanced equipment, and again, advanced is the wrong word. They showed that there was extra distance out there for people if they were willing to sacrifice spin, and how that might help them keep the ball up in the air, and also it would sacrifice MOI, having the centre of gravity so far forward on these ones. And what's interesting, I think, in today's modern equipment is that most manufacturers now make a low spin version of a club, or have weights that allow you to put it into low spin versions. This is obviously a different spinning version to the D3, and then you've obviously got Callaway's got their Sub-Zero to their normal in Rogue, and they had it in Epic. So everyone kind of followed suit and went with this kind of low spin option. But what was really interesting is that no one's really there now. Again, those low spinning models are actually lesser selling products than the kind of products that most of you actually need, which is weight further the back. And even on tours of the world, we see plenty of players using golf clubs which aren't just always low spinning. So they kind of, we can say that's one of the most interesting developments rather than advancements. And it kind of just made us look more at our launches and spins in a bit more detail to try and maximize what we get out of the driver. But also at the same time, is it allowed us to see what sacrifices we're making, which is the main thing with all advancements in tech. Now, thinking about launches and spins, that leads me on to my kind of main thing that I've seen really for me in the last 10 years, is Golf Pro's understandings of launch data, their ability to manipulate it and use it for their students with sliding weights, with heel and toe weights, with sure fit CGs, moving it heel and toes and slightly more forward and slightly more back. So it's actually those developments which kind of are all in the stories of these drivers that is where I've seen the biggest advancements in technology, is in actually that students are able to get much better information, better fittings, better lessons than they've ever been able to get. Which for me, I mean, I'm biased, I'm a golf coach, so, you know, say what you want, and obviously these people have to sell you golf clubs, that's their business, that's what they're all about. But for me, those developments in understanding launch conditions and how to get the most out for a student or a professional or your average golfer have made the biggest differences, more than any of the tech. Because I think what's always interesting when we talk about tech is that not much of it sticks around, does it? If things are, I mean, if you think about this phone here, I had an original iPhone. When they first came out, I had one. Unfortunately, it was stolen from my house, which makes me really sad because I was keeping it as a kind of a benchmark of changing the way phones and the way we interact with them was kind of the first time we'd ever seen anything like it, touchscreen, all those kind of things. It stays around, doesn't it? The iPhone hasn't changed that much from the day it was released to now. There are changes, but they're small because it was an advancement in technologies. Loft up came and went. You don't have to loft up anymore. Channels come and go on clubs. Sliding weights and where you put them will come and go, which is kind of where I think for lots of the companies we see them just going around in circles, and often it's more about the story they can tell than actually the physical advancements that are helping golfers develop better skills. Which is very obvious if you look at the R&A USGA's recent reports on distance, where there's no real distance changes. There's a little creeping on the Pro Tours, amateurs staying the same. If there was game-changing tech, like some of these people, in my opinion, try to constantly claim, it would stick around. It wouldn't need to disappear after a few years, would it? And they're all kind of a little bit the same when it comes to that. I mean, some companies may be better than others at sticking with trusted things that have worked for a long time. The past is history and the future is change. Mike Reed, okay. Why don't we loft up anymore? Anthony Jackson asked in the chat room. Well, if you go and put the centre of gravities further back, lofting up isn't really going to achieve anything for you. In fact, it's just going to make you launch it too high, and then again, you're going to lose distance. If you think about firing a hose, I've done this analogy a lot. If I'm firing a hose to the end of the garden, I've only got X amount of power, so X amount of club head speed, and I want to get the water to reach the end of the garden, I'm going to change my launch angle. So there's an optimum. If you go beyond that, the hose won't reach because it'll file too high, and if you go below that, it'll file too low and also not reach. So just lofting up a club that's giving you help with a bit of launch by having the weights at the back, say on these ones, or something like a G400 Max, which is out now, those kind of things, it's just not going to help you. It's going to harm you. The whole loft up idea was because no one could keep these clubs in the air because there wasn't enough spin. So they took all the spin off, but then changed the launch. So you can keep lofting up. You're just going to have to make sure that you don't have much spin on your driver, because that spin helps to keep that ball and lifts that ball up into the air. So that's why you don't loft up anymore. And again, it's a game-changing tech. I think they ran with that for 4 years, 2 years. Post in the comments how long did they run with it. And that's not just, you know, pinpointing tailor-made. All of them kind of do that to a certain extent. Good evening. Hello, I missed that one. Should you try to fix your swing mechanics rather than trying to adjust it with the club? Well, Scott Dale, good question. Asked that question. I like to try and fix it with me personally. I will play a little bit with clubs to try and make sure that I've got the club that gives me the best options and the best feels on the golf course. If you take someone like Coach Lockie, he uses a freewood shaft in his driver, so he's not afraid to completely change his equipment to try and help his stroke ability with a certain club. So it's much more player specific. Some players are happy with their movement, they just want to move the club around. Some, it's much more on them. The biggest thing to remember is all these sliding weights and short fit hosels and all these things, they are tweaking. And there's another big advancement in the last 10 years. What these weights will do, they're built on the back of what tour players are asking for and what tour trucks are playing for. They would used to have to use rack glue, go in these holes for these clubs, to try and make sure if a player wanted a club weighted in a certain way, that they could do it by putting glue in there to make it heavier in certain places, those kind of ideas. What things like SureFit and the tracks allow them to do is on a range, literally just change a club's characteristics, tweak a club's characteristics and launch to try and dial in a feeling for a player. But they're tiny amounts, and we're talking about players who are already delivering some level of consistency. You know, I've said it for over 10 years, kind of 10 years now, hopefully, that if you're someone who's hitting a face 6 open to a path, a club is not going to fix that within reason. That's going to be a lot up to you. But there might be a club that makes you have the kind of cut spin of someone who only delivers the club 4 open to a path. So you might not lose as many shots to the right as you did maybe with your prior club. But they're never going to fix you. They're just helping you develop as a golfer. But good question. What else have we got in there? Why do so-called... Oh, cool, it's going quick. Let me see if I can stop one here. Where is it? Have we got any one? Why do so-called custom clubs or clones work as well as top brands? Why should I even bother with top brands? Giving quality for life. Good question. The things that you get from top brands is you will get innovations. So if you think about an innovation in the last 10 years, and I don't know if it is in the last 10 years, but the SureFit neck on a Titleist driver, copied by many other brands. You can move the loft and the lie independent of each other, giving it a fantastic fitting option. I know Callaway do a similar thing. TaylorMade were changing necks around a long time ago as well, so they were trying to do that and did that. Mizuno do theirs recently. So they're all trying to do that kind of dial-in bits. That doesn't come from clone clubs. So if you want a club that is dialed in for you and gives you the feelings that you want, you're not going to get that from clone clubs as well. The other thing you're going to get with clone clubs, and when I mean clone clubs, I don't mean complete copies of these. I've worked in pro shops for years. Just steer 100% clear of those because they are awful in quality. The amount of heads that I've seen in irons that literally just snap in half from those kind of really bad copies. I'm talking maybe companies that try to use this kind of tech but still make decent equipment, you know, so some of your cheaper brands, if you like. They're still very much worth a try and go and demo them. What you won't get with those is you won't get the latest technology because they're going to copy and come up behind, so they're going to be later. And also you often don't get the fitting options that you get with the top brands because they haven't got the network of supply into all the manufacturers. So people tend to often buy them off the rack. And as a golf coach, teaching people all different shapes, sizes, swings and deliveries, seeing clubs come to me with students off the rack is never a great thing. But great question. Hope that answers that. Where's the beer, brah? I'm on the water tonight, actually. We've been out for a meal with Mrs. Parfield. But it's all about healthy living now, isn't it? With my exercise and stuff. I'm on the healthy stuff. Learn to play a fade or draw. I'm not sure if that is a comment or a question. How much do you think the putter has changed? God, we're going quick. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep up. Where's it gone? How much do you think the putter has changed in the last 10 years? I don't think the putter has particularly changed massively. I think your grooves and those kind of things on the face can do things. But again, it's tiny, tiny amounts. The biggest thing you've got to remember with this whole conundrum where people get lost is the RNA and USGA are controlling everything. That's why distances are plateauing. They're proven they've got a handle of it. The latest distance report shows that they've got a handle on it and they're happy. They even stated in the report that they're not going to do anything. They're just going to keep watching to see if there's any more developments. And if developments in the actual player, size, physicality, fitness level, strengths is developing, then they might go to these guys, the manufacturers, and think about trying to limit a bit more what they can do with the clubs. Might. So at the moment they're happy with what everything is doing. So the idea is that none of this equipment can just blanket cover help you all. It's going to be so much more dialed in for the person. Right, let's see if there's a couple more questions Custom shop my kitchen, Edward. Before we move on to the next question, is Tiger back? Well, possibly, but that's a different question. Okay, what handicap should you get to before getting custom fit? Matt Lomas. Great question, Matt. There's many ways to get custom fit. You can get custom fit statically, literally just measuring fingertips, the ground, those kind of things. You can get measured dynamically, which is you hitting shots and us measuring a fitter or a pro, measuring you to see what you deliver to get the best clubs for you. Now, I fit for custom fit for years, and there are some people who are so new to the game that you can't really dynamically custom fit them. They're not delivering anything that they might deliver in the future. So we talk heavily about budget. How much they want to spend, how much they want to spend for how much time, bearing in mind they might want to change them in a period of time, subject to the commitment they want to put into this new expensive sport they're playing. So it's decisions based around a few things, how your delivery is as a beginner. It can range, some beginners deliver fine with speed, some literally stand there and just move the club in their first session, but they want to get clubs because they want to practice with their own clubs. And that was the big thing I did for my students. I made it very clear that I did a study at the old place I was in London, where I was teaching hundreds of people a week, and players that we got to get their own clubs as early as possible, they are the ones who went on and joined clubs. So the chance of them going on to join golf clubs and keep committed to the game was heightened, and much more from the ones who are willing to commit to getting clubs in the first, say, 6 half-hour of lessons. And I don't mean spending thousands of pounds on clubs. That could be £100 set, £300 set, to £1,000 set. It was the ones who always kept putting off buying clubs that would slowly kind of fade away. You wouldn't really see them. So buying clubs for people is a great way of getting them committed, getting them invested, getting them kind of using their clubs and getting familiar with their clubs, which does help in the learning process. But that doesn't mean you have to spend loads of money at all. It's going to be very budget driven, that one. That's great. Thanks, guys, for those questions. 5 wood or hybrid? Last one quickly. Why do you choose a hybrid at Rinky Dinks? 5 woods, the shafts are longer, so they don't fit into the distance gap I need them to go into as easily. I also find the 5 wood compared to a hybrid a little harder to hit from different lies, because you have got such a big sole on a wood compared to a hybrid, which obviously is often around half the thickness, so you can dig it out of certain places when you really need to. And the shaft length as well. 5 wood's the shaft length longer than, say, my power hybrid, which would what it would be equivalent to. So advances in tech in the last 10 years, I would say it's very minimal. I would say this is the standout statement, right, for me on advances in tech. There are much bigger advances in people's statements of craziness around what we call technology. And the word technology in golf is just thrown around so loosely, because even colours on clubs gets classed as technology sometimes, where surely that's design or even art, but that's a different thing. But the claims around the clubs, as the world gets more competitive about selling these products, are getting wilder and wilder and wilder. And that's why I try my hardest still now to try and deliver as fair a message as possible. Even though I'm paid by one of the major brands, they still allow me to have my opinion on theirs and other people's clubs, which I'm proud of and love doing. And I just love trying to challenge some of the crazy statements that you hear around game-changing and revolutionary technology, which we all know will be gone in 2 years or 3 years, because it's marketing rather than technology. And often what happens is golfers get lost in the wrong conversations rather than going and having lessons, getting fit, and getting the best equipment and advice for their game, because they're too busy thinking about something that's going to fix their game because it's been marketed at them. That's the biggest change, is that's got bigger, isn't it? Right, Phil, should we move on to this one? Who's got an opinion on this one? Come on, let's hear you, if I can get it in front of the camera here. So he's saying, should we limit the amount of beer? Rory was suggesting, I didn't see this and I don't know if he was, but we should limit the amount of beer that these people are drinking on maybe the PGA Tour because the crowds are getting rowdy. Great question. People are still on the clubs here because I know you have a slight delay on me. For me personally, it's this balance, isn't it? it's a balance between entertainment and ticket prices and getting those crowds there and getting that active support and getting that fun feeling and that kind of buzz that obviously the American on the PGA Tour audience wants, because you don't really see it on the European Tour at all, I don't think, but post in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong. What I feel is I kind of don't care as long as they are being watched and marshalled to a certain extent, and the people in control do have the powers to deal with people who are getting out of control. But I just think of something like the Phoenix Open, where there's something like 20,000 people around the 17th. I've been to that event and it's fantastic. The whole buzz around the place is fantastic. That is one of the events you'll go to where I reckon you'll see more non-golfers there than you will any other event. It reminded me more of Wimbledon. So when I go to Wimbledon to watch the tennis, there are plenty of people there watching tennis who don't play tennis. They're there for the fantastic feel and the kind of showmanship of the whole place. And for me, the more golf tries to sell itself as an appealing, all-encompassing, fun game, which does incorporate all different walks of life, so posh, poor, people who want to drink, people who don't want to drink, people who want to cheer, people who don't want to cheer, the better. But I'm not there in those situations. I've not really experienced it, so that's just my opinion based on my feelings at the minute. I'm sure if the players are suggesting that it's getting out of hand, you would have to listen to them to a certain extent. But it's this balance, surely, between getting those people through the door, making them have fun, obviously beer's part of the whole day for them, to it becoming golf boring and stale and those kind of things. Isn't combo mindset everyone? So if every other sport fans are screaming at the players, I also think he kicked the bee's nest, should have kept hush. I don't quite get that one. It's more the stuff they shout when players hit their shots that annoys me while watching PGA Tour events. Yeah, but I mean, it is annoying, isn't it? Well, I don't actually find it that annoying. I just find it quite odd, some of the things that are shouted, but I understand why it frustrates people. But, I mean, I go to America a lot, and it's a very different culture in volume. Me and Matt did a thing on the first 2 years, I think, when we went, where I did a test where I tried to shout in certain places, and people just did not turn around. Because they're used to people just like go woo and just like being louder. It was quite interesting as a English person growing up in an English environment how different it was. That didn't make me think they were wrong, or it didn't annoy me, and if it did annoy me, it was more my problem than, because you're talking now about cultural differences a little bit, aren't you, I think there, so it's a delicate one to go into. Mashed potato, obviously, being one of the ones someone's just posted up there. Shouting, it's in the hole from 500 yards out is what that's all about, Mr. Abe 8. Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy one as well, but I mean, I used to play golf at a golf course, which was the first tee was next to a road, and it was like clockwork. Every twice or three times a day, someone would drive past, roll their windscreen down, and shout 4, thinking that's funny. You know, trying to stop those people, you might as well just get on and ignore them and have fun in your life, I think. I know Justin Thomas was quite a public case recently, wasn't it, where a rowdy supporter, and he had him removed, and he actually went on Twitter, I think, and apologised, which I thought was quite a strange chain of events. I had a few people on Twitter saying, why do they have to be quiet when they hit the shots? Why can't they get used to people talking like they do a bit at the Ryder Cup when they whoop them up? I think that's kind of quite curveball and out there. I don't mind that they have to be quiet, but I kind of get where that comes from as well. Like, the football players aren't waiting for silence, are they? So yeah, absolutely. I think it's more that us English don't quite understand the louder shouting US audiences, and then we get frustrated with it when we're watching it. It doesn't bother me, but post comments down below, let me know what you think. What do you think of it? I would go with the players' lead. If the players are starting to feel like it's infringing on their ability to play, compete, their enjoyment, them wanting to go to those events, because I know there's some people probably don't play the Phoenix because they don't like their atmosphere. It's not what they feel like they can play in. Then I'm sure the PGA Tour would look at it, but that's because they're looking at it as that business model, selling tickets, getting the right performers to come and perform at their show. if you like. Right, before we go on to the last question, let me just find a few comments I had on Twitter, which I think was quite an interesting run. So when I posted about, we're going to talk about the 10 years advancements in tech, James Dixon said launch monitors, without a doubt, the ability to pinpoint exactly what change is a massive factor in improving. James Dixon, I would agree with that. Then it went on to say, Cozy Tempo, genuinely it's YouTube for me. He said he would have given up if it wasn't for YouTube. And as if someone who produces videos, golf videos on YouTube, that makes me very proud. Hopefully you're watching mine and other people's that are inspiring you to keep playing. That's, for me, I think one of, and again, I'm biased, but it's one of the most underrated things that YouTube is great at. I know telly certainly doesn't look at it enough or understand it. It kind of fights it rather than embraces that idea that maybe we're inspiring a lot of people to go out there and enjoy their game. But that's a different argument. And then this one comes up a lot. So this one's from Tim Aggett, and I know Tim. Hi Tim, if you are watching or you watch on playback. I know he's not a supporter of the new ball. He says, should I say it? Okay, here I go. I will say it. What about the straighter go further golf ball? And that's not in the last 10 years, I don't think. My maths might be out, but not in the last 10 years. But the golf ball one is interesting. Before we go on to the last question of the day, think about the contradiction with that. If I hit a golf ball with a start direction of 5 degrees to the right and I hit it 10 yards compared to hitting it 10,000 yards, which one ends up further offline? So a golf ball that goes further but is also straighter is a contradiction in itself, if you think about it. It's an interesting one. I've got more facts on this which I will deliver. I've got notes on it which I spoke with a ball technician actually just after Christmas, but they're packed up in my boxes because my office isn't finished yet because of all the works. But I will come to that subject a bit more. But just think about that. A ball that's going 5 yards direction or degrees offline struck, going 150 yards compared to 300 yards. Think about how good Rory is hitting that ball as far as he does. And DJ and Tiger and Sergio and all of them, and Justin Thomas, and keeping it on the planet. I mean, if you watch our course logs, you've got us guys carrying it 260 and it off the planet. They're carrying it 300, keeping it on the planet. So that one I think is a strange one that I get a bit lost in, because a ball spinning less, because they spin less than the older ball, that doesn't mean it's going to stay on line more, because you've got spin axis, which is how much you tilt it. That isn't the same as backspin. They're different things. And I think that's often where people get maybe a little bit confused. Love the Cornelia courses. Thanks, Mark. So a few comments coming in. What's your thoughts on the ball? Did you want it limited, Mr. Crossfield? No, I don't want it limited at all. And I certainly don't want the pro game and the amateur game being divided up. I think that's messy. People aren't thinking about the full picture of amateurs qualifying and getting in pro events with one ball and another. It's just a complete mess. And I love playing the courses when I get a chance, from most of the tees when I get a chance, with the same ball and the same, within reason, use of equipment as the people I'm watching on telly. It's one of the best things of our game. Rory really is a lovely boy, Nate Gate. Amen. So last question of the day then, because we're running out of time. And thank you all for watching. It's an amazing audience today. Make sure you get a lot of people in here, lots of thumbs up buttons still to be hit. If you're in here, you're enjoying it, you're posting comments, which is great to see, hit that thumbs up for me. It does me a favour. It's all good. Makes me do more lives if you want more lives. So hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. This was my favourite question actually to finish on. Tom Parker says, will Dan, so Dan Hendrickson, ever get up? That was my favourite question of all of them. I think it deserved an answer. Post comments down below. What do you reckon? Down there. Where am I? Down there. Hit those comments down there. That's it. Hit that. And hit that blooming thumbs up button. That's it. Lots of you hit it there. Hit it again if you, well, don't hit it again because it thumbs it up. But if you haven't hit the thumbs up button already, hit it. Will Dan ever get up? What do you reckon? Watch my Dan get up down video. Dan is interesting. He uses the low ball because of anxiety. It's panic and anxiety that makes him hit get up Dan. Travis. Luke hates golf. No. Austin says, say thanks to your family for us for allowing us to borrow you for learning every evening, no problem. Get the bleep down, no chance. He doesn't want to get up. There you go, there it is. Kellen M. He doesn't want to get up. No, Dan likes to get down low. But that's the one. That is the winning answer there. He doesn't want to get up. He uses the low ball out of anxiety to try and keep the ball straight. As you watch the turkey vlogs go on, and there are some incidents that happen, you'll see his shots get lower and lower and skankier because he just wants to win. He doesn't care what it looks like. He is trying to maneuver that ball around that golf course. So Dan will get up when he wants to get up. He doesn't need to get up, but he's playing against us. He might need to get up when he plays on some courses where you've got to go over water and those kind of things, but he knows that and he has that in his armoury. There we go. Hit the subscribe button if you don't already. Hit the thumbs up button as well. If you like the lives, I love doing them. Let me know what you think of them. Is the audio all right? It's a bit bouncing off this room at the minute because we haven't got blinds up yet and pictures on the wall, but that will change. And I've got my office coming, which will change as well. But post a comment down below. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the lives, because I'll do more of them if there's enough likes and you show me that you like them. I certainly love doing them. I love trying to answer your questions. I love your interactions through on Twitter. I love this format. I think it's just so interactive and I love trying to stay connected with you peoples. So yeah, let me know if you like it or not. We'll speak to you again very soon.